5 truly nightmare serial killers you'll regret knowing about.
It's hard for most people to understand how one human being can kill another, but even harder to grasp is when the same person kills multiple times. In this list, we'll be taking a look at some of the most heinous serial killers of all time, some who are not so well known, but all who were not content or affected by murdering once, and continue to kill over days, months, and years. All of the murderers in this list have monikers that fitted their horrendous crimes, and were motivated by reasons they considered to be important, that the rest of us find abhorrent. As with these longer lists, we only outline the crimes, so if you want us to go into more depth, then we'll be posting a poll over on Patreon for our Patreon members to select which one of these 5 serial killers we will cover in an in-depth documentary. Head on over to Patreon at the end
That's
of the
so
video
weird,
to
huh?
take
How
part in the poll.
killers kind of
For
get
just
glorified.
$2, you'll not only
But
be
it's like,
supporting
it's
our channel,
interesting to
you'll
understand.
also get access to our backlog
Or
of
to try to
Murderous
understand.
Minds and Minds of Madness documentaries.
Shit.
There are hours and hours of exclusive content over on Patreon. So if you enjoy our videos, want to support us,
Keep me safe.
and want access to uncensored and non-watered down
Where the
serial
hell
killer
is the
videos,
pond over
then
here?
head on over
Or
to
the
Patreon.
lab? I forget. Yo, that looks cool. I remember it not.
The
It used to
Gainesville
not look
Ripper.
like that.
Most people have heard of the 1996 slasher movie Scream, but few will have heard of Daniel
Oh,
Rowling,
I think
the
I know
real-life serial killer
this
and
dude's story.
inspiration behind the film. Rowling was born in Louisiana.
If I'm
on
right, this
May
fool
26th,
decapitated
1954.
people.
His
I don't
father
think
was a
Scream
police
ever did
officer,
that.
never wanted children, and Danny's childhood was not a happy one. As a teenager, Rowling was arrested a few times for robbery and spying on women, and as he got older, he had trouble holding down a job. He later progressed from robbery to murder. In the early hours of August 24th, 1990, Rowling broke into the apartment of 17-year-old university students Sonja Larson and Christina Powell. He killed both students in a brutal and terrifying attack. The next day, he broke into the apartment of 18-year-old student Krista Hoyt and waited for her to return home.
People
He
just be breaking in
mercilessly
like it's
killed
nothing,
Krista in a
dude.
similar way to Sonia and Christina.
It's kind of
Later,
wild.
returning to cut off
That's
Christina's
very
head
wild. What the
and
fuck?
place it on a shelf facing her corpse.
Yo, I heard
2
about
days
this
later,
dude.
on August 27th, Rowling broke into the apartment of 23-year-old Tracy Paul.
He was just fucking
and her
checking
roommate,
sliding
Manny
doors,
Tapoda,
dude, and just
also 23.
I think he knew how to lockpick
Rowling
them or
killed
something.
Manny after a struggle, and then killed Tracy after she came to investigate the commotion. He then posed her body similarly to his other victims, but he left Manny, the only male he killed, as he was. All the women he killed bore a striking resemblance to his mother.
I think he was
Despite
putting
huge
them.
media coverage,
I think he was
Danny
putting them
Rowling
in
was
like
only
sexual
caught after He
positions.
was arrested for an unrelated burglary charge. During his police interview, he confessed to the most
The hell is
horrific
this
student
thing?
murders in Florida's history and was unmasked as the Gainesville Ripper. On
did I
November
just do?
1991, Rowling was charged with 5 counts of murder and sentenced to death. He was executed by lethal injection on October 25th, 2006.
I feel like that's kind of the easy way out, isn't it? But then again, it's like, I don't know.
The Morehouse Murders. One of the most gut-wrenching
Fuck.
crime sprees in Australian history was the Morehouse Murders, committed by
Is there
Catherine
no?
and
No,
David
there was
Byrne.
no air over here. Fuck.
The couple claimed their first victim on October 6th, 1986, when they persuaded 22-year-old Mary Nielsen
I'm
to
dead.
go to their house on 3 Morehouse Street in Perth to purchase some cheap tyres. When Mary arrived, she was held at
What?
knife point and subjected to horrific abuse by David, watched by Catherine, before being taken to Glen Eagles National Park, where again she was tortured before being strangled and stabbed in the heart. The Burneys then buried Mary in a shallow grave and parked her car near police headquarters.
What the hell?
This was the start of a brutal killing spree, where over the course of 5 weeks, they murdered and tortured 3 more young women, holding them captive before slaughtering them and forcing them to call or write letters to friends and family, saying they were fine and giving false accounts of their whereabouts.
But so they're
However, their
posing
final
as
victim,
friends?
17-year-old Kate Moore, managed to escape their clutches and alerted the authorities. Following her escape, the Bernies were arrested and convicted of their crimes.
Do you find a
David
couple?
Burney confessed
Like
to the
one
4
is
murders
already
and pleaded
crazy,
guilty at
but
trial, and
why's the other one
Catherine
just
was also
agree?
found
How
guilty
do you
and
stumble
sentenced
across
to 4
another
life
killer, bro?
terms. Although the pair were
The
only
odds of that
tried
are
for
so,
these
like-
murders, it's been rumored that they
Oh,
were
it's feel
responsible for the
astronomical.
deaths of Barbara Weston,
Unless
and
killing
Cheryl
is just
Renwick,
common as
who
hell.
also disappeared in Perth in 1986. After nearly 20 years in prison, David Burney hanged himself in 2005. Catherine Burney remains
Howard.
incarcerated to this day, becoming only the 3rd woman in the history of Australia to be marked never to be released.
Damn. I like the way they changed the countdown. Looks pretty cool.
The Black Panther. From an early age, Donald Nappy was in trouble with the law and had an unhappy childhood after the death of his mother when he was 10.
Damn, that sucks.
When he married and had a child of his own in 1960, Donald changed the family surname from Nappy to Nielsen, so that the little girl would not suffer the bullying and abuse he had endured because of it.
His last name
Before
was
his killing
known
spree,
or something?
Nielsen
Oh.
committed over 400 house burglaries without detection by
Damn.
adopting a different modus operandi every few weeks, before moving on to more lucrative post office raids.
Just walking into people's houses like it's
He
nothing.
committed his first 3 murders in 1974 when he shot dead 2 sub-postmasters and the husband of a sub-postmistress. Nielsen was later dubbed the Black Panther after one of his victims' wives mentioned he was quick like a panther and dressed in black. On January 14, 1975, Nielsen broke into the home of the Whittle family in Highley, Shropshire, and kidnapped their 17-year-old daughter Leslie. He left a ransom note in the house, demanding £50,000 for Leslie's safe return. However, a series of police bungles and other circumstances resulted in Whittle's brother, Ronald, being unable to deliver the ransom money to the place and at the time demanded by Nielsen. Sadly, Leslie Whittle's body was found on March 7, 1975, hanging from a wire at the bottom of the drainage shaft where Nielsen had tethered her in Bathpool Park in Staffordshire.
What the hell?
Nielsen did not physically cause her death. She died of heart failure after falling off the ledge Nielsen kept her on. It is thought initially Nielsen was feeding Leslie, but it seemed a few days before her death he abandoned her. Nielsen was finally caught after he attempted and nearly succeeded in kidnapping 2 police officers who stopped to question him.
Fuck, I can't see in there, bro.
In July 1976, Nielsen was convicted of the kidnapping and murder of Leslie Whittle, 2 postmasters, and the husband of a postmistress. In total, Nielsen received 5 life sentences. He died
I don't
in
understand
prison on
that.
December 17, 2011, from
How do
breathing
you give people
difficulties.
multiple life sentences? That don't make sense to me. I don't get it.
The teacup poisoner.
What qualifies as one lifetime
Graham
then?
Young was born in North London in 1947.
And what if they have like heart failure
His
and
mother
are
died when he was a baby,
genuinely
and the
pronounced
upheaval
dead
of first living with his aunt and then with his father
5 times?
and his new family deeply affected young Graham. He became very introverted and developed solo hobbies that included a particular fascination with chemistry and toxicology. He also
Man just
enjoyed
finds
reading
himself
books about
playing with
notorious murderers.
chemistry.
His father Frank
crazy.
encouraged his son's interest in science by buying him a chemistry set, and rather than playing with his school friends, Graham spent hours doing experiments.
Just
So much
testing
so,
shit.
the pupils at his school named him the Mad Professor. As a teenager,
I guess that's
Young
interesting,
managed to
right?
acquire large quantities of poisonous chemicals, and soon his test subjects progressed to humans. He started serving his deadly concoctions to his family and schoolmates, laced in tea, to see what effect it had.
That's fucked up.
In
His own family,
1961,
too?
members of his family and a classmate developed severe stomach cramps. Nobody suspected that Young had anything to do with the mysterious illnesses. They assumed it was some kind of contagious stomach bug. But when one of his sisters was taken to hospital, doctors discovered belladonna, the ancient extract of deadly nightshade, in her system. She recovered, but Graham's stepmother Molly was not so lucky, and on April 21st, 1962, Molly Young died in excruciating pain.
Damn.
It was found out later that Young had
Oh,
been
that's a
slowly
cool.
poisoning his
That's
stepmother's
cool.
tea
Little skull.
with antimony, to which she developed a tolerance. The
That's
night before
cool.
her death, he switched to thallium to quicken the process. However,
Man, knows his
Young's aunt,
chemistry.
the one he had lived with as a young child, knew about his fascination with poison and became suspicious.
She's like, bro.
She had him
knows it.
sent to a psychiatrist who recommended calling the police.
Imagine having to assume your own
On May
like
23rd,
family is
1962, Graham Young was
killing
arrested.
each other.
He confessed to the murder of his stepmother, as well as the poisoning of his other family members.
That's so
But
weird.
due to Molly's cremation, there was no
Especially
evidence
finding
to
out
charge
like,
him.
yo, hey, he
So
really
instead, He was
did.
placed in Broadmoor Maximum Security Hospital in the UK, an incredibly notorious hospital that we should probably do a video on. At age
Do it.
14, Young became Broadmoor's youngest inmate, and was released 8 years later.
He was only 14 when he went.
Once released, Young got a job in a laboratory
How
and
is
willingly
that?
offered to make coffee and tea for his co-workers. Before long,
Uh-oh.
sickness swept through the lab, resulting in
Naturally.
the death of Bob Eggers.
Man just
in
gets out and tries it
1971.
again.
A second death followed, and nearly 70 employees experienced similar symptoms.
70?
Ultimately, Young threw suspicion on himself when he asked the staff doctor
How you
why
doing?
thallium poisoning wasn't being considered a cause, since it was used on site.
Why would he
The
ask
doctor
that?
reported the comment, and the police were alerted. After an investigation, they
What a
found Young's
dumbass.
diary,
Why would
in
you
which he
ask that though?
described how he poisoned his co-workers.
Maybe
Young
he
was
felt bad
sentenced
and
to
he was
life
like,
in
bro.
prison in June 1972, and died of a heart attack in 1990.
Oh no. I'm gonna
The
die.
Confession Killers. Drawn together by shared childhood trauma, Henry Lee Lucas and Otis Toole became lovers, then serial killers, who terrorized America in the 1970s.
Whoa. Made it.
When they were both arrested for separate crimes, they claimed to have murdered hundreds of people and became known as the Confession Killers. Both Lucas and Toole
Hundreds?
had been raised by abusive mothers who had forced their sons to dress like girls. Both had suffered sexual trauma before the age of 10, and by the time they met, both had already murdered,
What the fuck?
with Lucas killing his own mother in 1960, a crime
What?
he only served 10 years for.
What the
In the
hell?
1970s, Lucas and Toole traveled extensively across 26 states, but their once close relationship fell apart when Lucas started a relationship with O'Toole's teenage niece, Becky Powell. Toole was so upset that he allegedly killed 9 people after the breakup,
What the fuck?
but Lucas and Becky didn't last long, and after an argument, Lucas killed her, dismembered her body, and scattered her remains in a field in Texas.
You're just going on a
He
killing
also
spree.
killed the woman who owned the ranch they were living in at the time, and stuffed her body into a drainage pipe. In 1983,
How does he get away with all this
Lucas was
shit?
arrested for possession of a deadly weapon, and once in custody, he began to confess to hundreds of unsolved murders. Around the same time, Toole had been arrested and jailed in Florida for burning a 64-year-old man alive.
What the
At
fuck?
last, the killer couple were behind bars, but it was just the start of a bizarre mystery that remains unsolved to this day. Lucas claimed that he and Toole killed everywhere they went. They preyed upon anyone they encountered, and shared a mutual love of murder, torture, rape, and cannibalism. At
Cannibalism.
first,
What
Toole
the
was
hell? They
reluctant to
eating
talk
them?
about his crimes, but when he learned that Lucas was taking police on guided tours of their murder sites and enjoying certain privileges, he confessed that together they murdered 108 people.
Police were
including
in
the
on it?
high-profile unsolved murder of 6-year-old Adam Walsh,
What?
the son of future America's Most Wanted host.
I remember
John
seeing that
Walsh.
kid's photo.
Toole claimed he decapitated the boy with a machete and drove around with his head in his car for months before tossing it into a canal.
How does he not get pulled
Meanwhile,
over?
Lucas readily confessed to more than 600 murders, offering grisly detail of the crimes and drawing pictures of them.
What the
For a long
fuck?
time, police believed both men, but slowly, with improvements in forensics, their confessions began to unravel.
What, they
Although
were
there
lies
some
or-
investigators that still
or-
believed they were telling the truth.
How would they
Eventually,
lie?
Toole was convicted of 6 murders and died in prison in 1996 of cirrhosis, aged 49. Lucas was convicted of 2 murders in addition to his mother, and he died aged 64 of heart failure in 2001, taking the truth about their murder count with them.
Damn. So we'll
It's
never
worth
know.
noting that false confessions have terrible consequences for both the victims' families and the reputation of the police.
They never
and
get
could
that
mean
proper
the real killers
closure.
behind these fake confessions could still be out there.
Yeah, that too, right?
So that's it for this video.
Damn.
That was 5 truly heinous serial killers that you probably regret learning about.
That was pretty
Thanks
heinous.
for watching. Stay safe, everyone, and we'll see you in the next video.
That's definitely pretty heinous, bro. That shit was sketchy. What the hell, man? How many people just live with themselves doing that shit? I don't understand that. I feel like that should eat someone's mental away, right? Unless they're just desensitized to it. I don't know. What if there was like a medicine you can give them to just make them stop being a killer? You think they'll take it? Or do you think they're just fucked in the head completely? Because then that would mean, are you just wired differently, or is it just the taboo? Some people just go on crazy sprees, bro. It sounds like a movie or like some made up shit, but these people really did it, or are currently doing it, making history. All these fucking shootings all the time. It's crazy, and everybody want to glorify these serial killers, but it's like, I get it, it's interesting, but at the same time, like, you think Jeffrey Dahmer's parents, I'm pretty sure they've come out and been like, yo, bro, I don't know why you guys keep glorifying this dude. Like, it was bad. But people still, like, talk about him being good looking and shit. I don't know. Crazy.